A new descent began. You are talking about that? Yeah, I know. Because you
For what the spirit sees
yeah, becomes
remains a truth.
yeah.
It means, and after what the soul imagines is made war.
Yeah, well,
We create
actually,
war.
I was going to explain that.
I mean, we are creating the work.
Yeah.
The soul come and create the work. You agree, no?
I will read it. A huge descent began, a giant fall. Okay. Now, for what the spirit sees creates a truth, and what the soul imagines is made a world. It is for a certain purpose that the plunge is taken. It sees some possibility behind the shadow. It became curious of that possibility. He says no infinite possibility there. It became curious because it got tired of its sameness. And therefore, if it sees some possibility, it has to become true because it is this possibility seen by the spirit itself. In other words, you take it at a different level. If the Supreme has created the inconscience, He has created because there is a possibility behind inconscience. It is not for the purposes of suffering, misery, and nothing. That may be a part of the process, but because he sees a possibility through the process of inconscience, he has created inconscience. He sees the truth behind inconscience, and therefore it is there. Therefore it is there. Otherwise, there is no purpose at all. In fact, it becomes meaningless. The Sachidananda will remain always Sachidananda, happy, okay, forever, forever. So what? No new possibility, no new growth. It sees a new possibility by this process of getting into the inconscience. And it is that which has to emerge. In fact, that is the whole theory of evolution. The real theory of evolution is that how to generate new possibilities by emptying yourself out. So that whatever you have is totally exhausted. When it is exhausted, when it is void, when it is shunya, then only something new can happen. Otherwise, it is not new. You have to empty out yourself fully first. Then new thing can happen. That is the possibility the Supreme sees, and therefore it is by that way. On a smaller scale, relative smaller scale, it is the individual also who sees that your transcendental soul is there, Jivatma is there, it sees a possibility behind the shadow, therefore it jumps into it. There is a danger, okay, so what? But there is a greater joy also of growth. That's what it means. Now, in fact, I was going to read. Are you? You're not tired, no? Okay. Now, this is important. This is straightforward. I mean, thus came born from a blind, tremendous joy, this great, perplexed, and discontented world. It's okay. That is understandable, easily seen. But now, why a huge descent began, a giant fall? What is the purpose of that? I will read something from the Life Divine. This is very important. The divine and the undivine. This is the chapter in the Life Divine, chapter 4, in the second part. The universe is a manifestation of an infinite and eternal all existence. The divine being dwells in all that is. We ourselves are that in ourselves, in our own deepest being. Our soul, the secret indwelling psychic entity, is a portion of the divine consciousness and existence and essence. But at the same time, We speak of a divine life as the culmination of the evolutionary process. What he is basically saying is that if we are all that, then where is the question of evolution? If we are all that, then where is the question of evolution then? Why? And the use of the phrase implies that our present life is undivine. That is the contradiction we meet. And all the life too that is below us, at first glance, this looks like a self-contradiction. You say it's all divine, and yet you want to say we want to grow. That is the contradiction. So he is stating the problem straight away first, and now he is going to resolve the problem. The distinction between the divine and the divine life is in fact identical with the root distinction between life of knowledge lived in self-awareness and the power of light and a life of ignorance. Life lived in knowledge and life lived in ignorance. It is that is important. The distinction between the divine and the undivine is if you are living in the knowledge or you are living in ignorance. At any rate, it is so present itself in a world that is slowly and with difficulty evolving out of the original inconscience. All imperfections, all perfections had to be taken into view in our consideration of the difference between an undivine and divine existence. To it, we could apply the Greek saying, the divine is not yet in being, but is in becoming. He is making a distinction between the divine in being and the divine in becoming. We are the divine in becoming, not the divine in being. We are the divine in being, becoming. That is the process of evolution. The true divine would then be secret within us and perhaps supreme above us. To find the divine within us and above us would be the real solution. To become perfect as that is perfect. To attain liberation by likeness to it or by attaining to the law of its nature, sadrasya, sadharmya. You have to be identical with him. Well, before I proceed, in fact, let me summarize here quickly some of these things. This is a long thing. Once in conscience and ignorance. What is it? There are two elements basically. One is a conscious assent by the soul to this manifestation. Assent by the soul to this manifestation. A-S-S-E-N-T. Assent, not assent. Assent. You have assented. You have given the consent. You have consented. You have consent. Assent. In that sense. See what he says is basically here. The soul is there. The soul has assented to come down here. This is what we have been reading just now. What Narad was saying. No, with the soul up there, it saw something shadow, it assented. It became curious of it. It is your assent, you see. You have agreed. Well, let me see what it is. What can you do? It is there. Otherwise, you won't be here. A conscious assent by the soul to this manifestation. You have agreed to be here.
But because you didn't know what it means.
You have agreed to be here. You can't help it. You have agreed to be here. And reason in the all wisdom that make the place significant and intelligible. Why you agreed? Because you see that in the all wisdom, there is something important, something significant, something intelligent. You agree to that. You believed in the all wisdom, you believed in the all wisdom, and you have given your consent to be a part of this manifestation. You can't help it, you see. You are trapped. Okay. Now, so once in conscience and ignorance, once inconscience and ignorance are admitted, the natural result is wrong knowledge, wrong will, wrong choice, imperfection. Once you accept it, inconscience and ignorance, imperfection, that would not justify self creation or lila. That it is God's play, it is not that. It is not that. It is your choice then. Then what is that? It would be an imposition on the unwilling creature. If you say that God is lila, play, happiness and all that thing, then imperfection would be an imposition on the person. My then imperfection then, if it is God's play. There has to be, so it is not an imposition of imperfection in the God's play. This is a God's play, and ignorance, inconscience, imperfection is not an imposition upon you. This is what he says. Then what it is then? There has to be the assent of the embodied spirit. You have to give your consent. The spirit has to say yes, yes, I am willing to go there. Prakriti cannot act without the assent of the Purusha. The will of the divine Purusha to make the cosmic creation possible has to be accomplished. The will of the Purusha, the Supreme wants a manifestation. If it has to be carried out, then the Prakriti needs a sanction, nature. By the assent of the individual Purusha, the individual has to give the consent. Yes, I am willing to come here. Otherwise, no. Yet, the divine will for manifestation and the assent of the soul is a mystery. He says it's a mystery. Why the soul should give assent? Why the divine will should try to manifest? That is still a mystery. This is what we have got here in this long thing. Then he says, but it is not a mystery because self-concealing and self-finding, you have hidden yourself from everything and you want to discover yourself. You have hidden yourself from everything, from yourself also, and you want to discover yourself. Self-concealing and self-finding is an exceptional joy. You hide yourself totally and you discover yourself. That is a very peculiar, very exceptional kind of a joy. Victory over difficulties is a joy which is most cherishable. Difficulty there, you have conquered it, then it is there is no difficulty, there is no joy also then. You rise up to the occasion and then you say, yes, I have conquered, I am the master. That is the most cherishable joy. So the difficulty has to be there. In other words, cherishable. There is an attraction in ignorance. That is the difficulty. Ignorance is there is an attraction, difficulty is there. Attraction in ignorance. In fact, is what we are saying. You became curious of the shadow. A great adventure of the soul. That is the great adventure of the soul. Choice of the individual Purusha in the inconscience is a new affirmation of Sachidananda. New affirmation of Sachidananda. Choice of the individual You have many choice. So it is Satchidananda himself who is kind of affirming it, you see. It's a new affirmation. Yes, here is inconscious, go and enjoy. It is an affirmation. In what is not. Affirmation in what is not. In other words, there is nothing here, you want to have something there, that is the affirmation of Satchidananda. That is the new joy of creation, basically. Satchidananda, Satchidananda's right to manifest in its opposite, non-Satchidananda, is a possibility and it must be granted. I am Satchidananda, I must have a possibility of being non-Satchidananda. And that possibility must be granted. I am this, let me be opposite of that. That is a possibility. And that must be granted. It is for this reason that our souls accepted this joy of self-discovery in the dark, unforeseen.